Cowboys Nation, stop everything you're doing right now because this might be the most important video you watch all offseason. Dallas is about to do something absolutely insane, and if these reports are true, the entire landscape of the NFC is about to shift dramatically. We're talking about not one, but two of the most terrifying pass rushers in professional football suddenly being linked to America's team. This is the kind of news that changes everything. This is the kind of move that turns a struggling franchise into an instant Super Bowl contender. And if you're a true Cowboys fan, you cannot afford to miss a single second of what I'm about to tell you. Before we dive into this explosive report, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and slam that notification bell because we're dropping Cowboys content every single day. And trust me, you do not want to be the last one in your group chat to hear about this. Let's get into it. All right, so here's the situation. The Dallas Cowboys just finished one of the most embarrassing defensive seasons in franchise history. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. This wasn't just a bad year. This wasn't just an off year. This was a historically catastrophic defensive collapse that exposed everything wrong with this roster. The Cowboys allowed 31 points per game last season. Let that number sink in for a moment. 31 points per game. That's not just bad. That's the worst scoring defense in the entire National Football League. Dead last. Rock bottom. The Dallas Cowboys, the most valuable sports franchise on the planet, America's team, the team that's supposed to represent excellence in championships, finished the season with the worst defense in football, and you know what? Even Jerry Jones couldn't hide from the truth anymore. The owner himself came out and admitted publicly that the team simply didn't get it done on the defensive side of the ball. When Jerry Jones is admitting failure, you know things have gotten serious. Now let's talk about what happened on the field, because the numbers tell a devastating story. Despite having one of the most explosive offenses in the league, despite Dak Prescott slinging the ball all over the field, despite having weapons like CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens lighting up opposing defenses week after week, the Cowboys still finished with a 7-10 record and missed the playoffs entirely. Think about that for a second. An elite offense, playmakers everywhere, and they still couldn't win games. Why? Because every single time the offense would put up points, the defense would give them right back. It was like watching a team try to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it just keeps leaking out. And that's exactly what happened to the Cowboys all season long. So now the question becomes, what is Dallas going to do about it? And this is where things get absolutely wild. According to multiple league insiders and NFL analysts, the Cowboys might be positioning themselves to make the most aggressive defensive move of the entire Jerry Jones era. I'm talking about a blockbuster trade that would send shockwaves through the entire league. I'm talking about the kind of move that makes other general managers pick up their phones and ask what just happened. And the two names being connected to Dallas right now are enough to make every Cowboys fan lose their mind. The first name is Myles Garrett. Yes, that Myles Garrett, the Cleveland Browns superstar who just did something that had never been done before in NFL history. Last season, Myles Garrett recorded 23 sacks in a single year. 23 sacks. That shattered the all-time single-season sack record. We're not talking about a good season here. We're talking about the greatest pass-rushing season in the history of professional football. And it wasn't just the sacks. It was the constant pressure, the forced fumbles, the way offensive coordinators had to completely change their game plans just to account for one man. Myles Garrett is a physical freak of nature. His first step off the line of scrimmage is so explosive that offensive tackles literally cannot keep up with him. His power is so overwhelming that even double teams struggle to slow him down. He has won Defensive Player of the Year twice now, and honestly, he probably should have won it a few more times. Former NFL lineman Willie Colon went on First Things First and said something that immediately caught the attention of every Cowboys fan watching. He said, and I quote, "If you're Dallas, you sell your soul to get Myles Garrett. You do whatever it takes. You trade the 12th overall pick. You trade the 20th overall pick. You throw in whatever else Cleveland wants. You just get that man in a Cowboys uniform." And when you think about it from a pure football perspective, that makes complete sense. The Cowboys' biggest problem is that they can't get to the quarterback. They can't create pressure. They can't disrupt opposing offenses. Myles Garrett is quite literally the best in the entire world at doing exactly that. Now imagine what the Cowboys' defense would look like with Garrett on the field. Imagine offensive coordinators having to game plan for a player who just broke the all-time sack record. Imagine quarterbacks looking across the line of scrimmage and seeing number 95 staring back at them. Everything changes. Suddenly you can't just run your normal pass protection. Suddenly you have to keep the tight end in to help block. Suddenly you have to chip with the running back. And when teams are forced to do all that just to stop one guy, it opens up opportunities everywhere else on the defense. Other rushers get one-on-one matchups. Linebackers get cleaner shots at the quarterback. The entire defensive structure improves because of one dominant player. And here's another huge factor that makes this even more interesting. The Cowboys just brought in a brand new defensive coordinator named Christian Parker. Now, if you don't know who Christian Parker is, let me give you a quick breakdown. This guy comes from the Philadelphia Eagles system, one of the most aggressive and creative defensive schemes in the entire league. The Eagles' defense under that coaching tree has always emphasized getting after the quarterback. Pressure packages, exotic blitzes, disruptive front sevens that make life miserable for opposing offenses. And guess what kind of player makes that system work? Elite pass rushers. If Dallas truly wants to run Christian Parker's scheme at its highest level, they need a game wrecker on the defensive line. They need a guy who can win his one-on-one matchups every single play. They need someone who strikes fear into the hearts of opposing quarterbacks. Myles Garrett checks every single one of those boxes. But here's the thing, Cowboys Nation, Dallas isn't the only team in the hunt. And that brings us to the second name being connected to America's team, and honestly, this one might be even more realistic. Max Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders is suddenly being heavily linked to the Dallas Cowboys, and according to CBS Sports insider Jonathan Jones, Dallas might actually be the best positioned team in the entire league to pull off this trade. Let that sink in for a moment. Not just a team in the mix, not just monitoring the situation, the best positioned team to get Max Crosby. Now let me tell you about Max Crosby because this guy is an absolute monster. They call him the Condor in Las Vegas, and he earned that nickname through relentless, non-stop, never-take-a-playoff effort. Crosby has recorded double-digit sacks in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Last year alone, he had double-digit sacks again, along with 28 tackles for loss. 28 tackles for loss. That means Crosby was in the backfield making plays behind the line of scrimmage almost twice a game on average. His motor is absolutely insane. He plays every single snap like it's the most important snap of his career. Defensive coordinators around the league talk about how much they love players like Crosby because they set the tone for the entire defense. When other players see their best pass rusher giving maximum effort on every single play, it raises the standard for everyone. And here's what makes the Crosby situation particularly fascinating. The Raiders might actually be willing to move him. Las Vegas is going through a complete organizational rebuild right now. They have a new coaching staff, they have a new direction, and when teams are in rebuild mode, they sometimes make tough decisions to trade away veteran stars in exchange for draft capital and younger players. The Cowboys, meanwhile, are in win-now mode. They have an elite quarterback in Dak Prescott. They have one of the best receivers in football in CeeDee Lamb. They have invested heavily in their offense. What they need is defensive help. This is a classic situation where the interests of both teams could align perfectly. Now let's talk about what Dallas would have to give up because that's where things get really interesting. Thanks to a trade that sent shockwaves through the fan base last season, the Cowboys currently hold 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft. They have the 12th overall selection and the 20th overall selection. That's premium draft capital. That's the kind of ammunition you need to go out and get a proven superstar. If you're trading for a player like Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, you're probably giving up at least one of those first-round picks. Maybe both, maybe even more on top of that. And that's the big debate happening right now among Cowboys fans everywhere. On one hand, you could use those draft picks to select young, cost-controlled talent. You could build for the future. You could add multiple pieces across the roster instead of going all in on one player. But on the other hand, how often do proven, elite, franchise-changing pass rushers become available? How often do you get the chance to add a player who just broke the all-time sack record or a player who's been a Pro Bowl performer year after year? Rookie draft picks are gambles. You hope they work out. You hope they develop. You hope they become stars. But when you trade for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, you already know exactly what you're getting. There's no guesswork involved. There's no development period. You're getting a proven superstar who can contribute at an elite level from day one. The Cowboys also have something else working in their favor right now. Cap space. Dallas recently restructured the contracts of 3 of their biggest stars, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyler Smith. Those restructures created approximately $66 million in salary cap flexibility. That's a huge number. That's the kind of money you need to absorb the contract of an elite pass rusher. Crosby, for example, has 4 years remaining on his current deal worth over $100 million. That's expensive. But with the cap space Dallas just created, they could actually make it work financially. It's almost like the Cowboys have been quietly preparing for this exact moment. Every move they've made this offseason seems to be pointing toward one thing: landing a game-changing pass rusher. But here's where the drama really picks up. Dallas isn't alone in this pursuit. The Chicago Bears have also been heavily linked to Max Crosby, and the Bears have plenty of assets too. They have cap space, they have draft picks, they have a young quarterback in Caleb Williams who needs a dominant defense around him. If the Raiders decide to move Crosby, we could see a full-blown bidding war between Dallas and Chicago. And in bidding wars, prices go up, assets fly off the table. Teams sometimes overpay just to make sure they don't lose out on a player they desperately want. The question becomes, how far is Jerry Jones willing to go? Would he sacrifice multiple first-round picks? Would he throw in additional draft capital? Would he push all the chips to the center of the table and bet everything on fixing this defense? And that's really the million-dollar question hanging over this entire situation. Jerry Jones has talked for years about wanting to win another Super Bowl before he's gone. He's watched this team underperform in the playoffs over and over again. He's seen the heartbreaking losses. He's seen the embarrassing exits. He's seen the memes and the jokes and the criticism. And after last season, after the worst defensive performance in franchise history, something has to change. Something drastic. Something dramatic, something that shows the fans and the players and the entire league that Dallas is serious about competing for a championship. Now I want to talk about what this would mean for the identity of the Cowboys franchise, because this goes deeper than just adding a talented player. For years, Dallas has been known as an offensive juggernaut. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott in his prime, Dez Bryant catching touchdowns, CeeDee Lamb making incredible plays. The Cowboys have always been about that high-powered, explosive offense that puts up points in bunches. But the best teams in the NFL aren't one-dimensional. The best teams have balance. The best teams can win games on both sides of the football. The best teams have defenses that can close out games in the fourth quarter, that can get crucial stops when it matters most, that can make opposing offenses uncomfortable and force turnovers. Adding a player like Myles Garrett or Max Crosby wouldn't just improve the defense statistically, it would fundamentally change how the Cowboys are perceived around the league. Suddenly you're not just an offensive team, suddenly you're a complete team. Suddenly you have a defense that can take over games. Suddenly quarterbacks are game planning for your pass rusher instead of the other way around. That shift in identity could be the difference between another disappointing season and a legitimate Super Bowl run. Let me paint a picture for you. It's week 14. The Cowboys are playing a crucial divisional game. The offense has done its job. Dallas has a lead, but there's still time left on the clock, and the opposing team is driving. In years past, this is where the Cowboys' defense would fold. This is where they'd give up the big play. This is where the lead would evaporate and the game would slip away. But with Myles Garrett or Max Crosby on the field, suddenly there's a different energy. Suddenly the pass rush is getting home. Suddenly the quarterback is under pressure every single snap. Suddenly, the defense is closing out games instead of giving them away. That's the difference a truly elite pass rusher can make. That's the kind of player who can change the entire trajectory of a franchise. And let's not forget about the age factor here. Max Crosby is only 28 years old. That means he's right in the middle of his prime. That means you're not trading for a player who's on the back end of his career. You're trading for a guy who still has multiple elite seasons ahead of him. Even Myles Garrett, despite his incredible production over the years, is still in his prime and showing no signs of slowing down. These aren't rental players. These are foundational pieces you can build around for years to come. Cowboys Nation, I need to hear from you right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you pull the trigger on one of these trades? Would you give up both first-round picks to bring Myles Garrett to Dallas? Would you sacrifice the 12th overall pick to land Max Crosby, or do you think the Cowboys should stay patient, build through the draft, and develop young talent instead? There's no wrong answer here, but I genuinely want to know what the fan base is thinking. This is one of the biggest decisions the Cowboys have faced in years, and every single fan has an opinion. What I can tell you is this: the Cowboys front office knows they have a problem. They've already fired the defensive coordinator. They've already brought in new coaching staff. They've already created cap space. They've already started exploring big moves. Every single action they've taken this offseason points toward one conclusion: Dallas is serious about fixing this defense, and they might be willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. If Myles Garrett ends up wearing the star, the Cowboys instantly become one of the most dangerous teams in the NFC. If Max Crosby lands in Dallas, the identity of this franchise changes overnight. Either move would send a message to the entire league that the Cowboys are done being a punchline. They're done being the team that can't get over the hump. They're done being the team that makes excuses and underperforms every single January. This offseason is about making a statement, and bringing in an elite pass rusher would be the loudest statement possible. So stay locked in, Cowboys Nation. This offseason is just getting started, and the moves Dallas makes over the next few weeks could define the franchise for years to come. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because when this news breaks, you're going to want to be the first to know. Drop a like on this video if you want to see Dallas go all in on defense. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Let's go, Cowboys.